The housing. Yeah, you read in some of the books that 20 square feet per pig is plenty. That's a 4x5 pen. I don't know. I've never felt very good about that, which is one reason why I didn't raise pigs. It took me a long time. They do wonderfully outdoors. They run and romp and play. They, like most animals, they like to move. They thrive under those conditions. And there's virtually no smell if they have enough room. I mean, any animal you put in a 4x5 pen, it's going to smell. I think they've gotten a bad rap undeservedly. So the cons on pigs is, and this is not a big deal, but they have literally no fur. They just have a few hairs. So they get overheated in the sun, and they get chilled in the wind very easily. So you have to give them some shelter. Very, very rudimentary, like a little A-frame with the floor and one end blocked off is fine. They need some concentrated feeds. So you are going to have that input cost, but you can supplement, I think, 30–40%, that was my experience, 30 to 40% of their feed with vegetables and pasture. They grow very large very quickly. If you're going to have breeding pigs, you know, an 800-pound sow can make short work of a little hoop frame building. They need solid structures. And as I said, they like to root and dig around in the soil, and they'll ruin a pasture or clear it for you, however you want to look at it. Okay, next slide. Okay, I'm just going to touch on these species briefly. I've kind of lumped them all together only because they're not animals that people are raising very often. Emus, there's a llama there, buffalo, elk. These are all species that people are raising. Some people are doing fine with it, but it's just something to think about. Just because a lot of people aren't doing it is not necessarily a reason for you to do it. It doesn't necessarily mean that there's an opening and there's a good market for it. Many of these exotics, they're wild. They're not, you can't get them tamed down. They need very, very sturdy facilities. That's a negative. And the marketing. You know, there is a market for buffalo meat. There is a market for elk meat. There's much less market for emu meat. That was tried about 20-some years ago. It's a small market, and if you want to raise something that's new and unusual, just know that it's going to be a little bit of a tough sell finding a market. That's really about all I wanted to say about that. Next slide. So just to recap, as you think about livestock enterprises, of course, all of these things are going to play in. Production requirements, what it's going to take to do it, how much it's going to cost to do it, can you sell it, and how you're going to sell it is something to think about. How much can you make from it, and very importantly, does it fit what you've just been studying the last couple of weeks, goals, interests, and resources. If it's a struggle, don't do it. You need to love it. Start small and see how it fits. My major goal in life, and I highly recommend it to everyone, is do what you love. Figure out what you love and do it. That's a very poor shot of me doing what I love. One of my favorite things in the world is hanging out with the animals. Life is short. So that's the end of my segment. I'm really sorry we had those technical problems. Colette?
Great. Actually, this is Jessica. There are a few questions came in while you were speaking, Melissa, and I was hoping that you might be able to address a couple of them. One question that you did touch on that Cinda had brought up too, but I just wanted to make sure everyone was clear. What are stalkers? You touched on it very early.
Stalkers is the term referred to, let's say with cattle. You can have mother cows and a bull and breed them and have babies. Or you cannot have mothers, you cannot breed, you can buy calves that someone else has bred. When they're weaned, you buy them and put them on your place, grow them out to finished weight, and then sell them. That's a stocker.
Great. Another question that came in, and you mentioned ethnic markets when you're talking about goat meat, but this participant mentioned rabbit meat, and she asked if rabbits are considered kosher or halal, and I was just wondering if you have come across any information on that you can share.
I don't know the answer to that. I will say that I thought it was the process used in the butchering that determined whether it was kosher or halal. I'm sorry, I don't have a better answer than that.
I just did a quick Google, and it looks like it's rabbits aren't considered kosher, but I think it just basically brings up a good point about knowing your market before you start to raise rabbits or goats or whatever, knowing where exactly you're going to sell them.
Very good question.
Another question came in. Kimberly asks, I would like to know where to find out regulations on the meat and dairy products. How do I know how or where it is legal to sell?
Washington State has done a better job of that than Idaho has. Cinda mentioned that earlier, and we laugh about it, but it's true. I would start at your county. Start at your county and your state. Go to your state website. That's certainly a good place to start. And at least in Idaho, there are state regulations and there are county regulations. And they vary wildly. So I can't tell you what the regulations would be in your spot.
Great. And the last question was in regards to poultry. Somebody had suggested or asked about using dog food, which is cheap and high in grain, as a substitute for cheap chicken feed. But how important is quality feed when you're looking at livestock production, poultry in particular?
Well, I have pretty strong opinions personal on that from my own personal experience, and that is high quality feed is one of the basic tenets of healthy, productive animals. Dog food is not formulated to feed chickens. It doesn't have the right ratio, the right balance of nutrients that chickens need to thrive. One of my pet peeves is people say, well, I had somebody who was here not too long ago for a workshop saying, well, I've got some sheep and I've been getting really cheap bakery waste, and they love it. They think those old sweet rolls are really delicious, and it just made me sick. I don't want to eat old bakery waste. Why on earth would I want to feed it to my animals or an animal that I'm going to eat? I believe that nutrition that's formulated for the particular species is far and away the cheapest, best way to raise animals successfully. And I could talk for an hour about this, but that's it in a nutshell.
Great, thanks. The last question is sort of general, and folks were wondering, where do we find production guides, specifically livestock production guides, or I can speak to veggie ones when we get there, but Melissa, have you found any good sources of livestock production guides online?
Oh, most definitely, and I've been researching them for years and years and years. What I can do is post production guides, total production guides. Okay, I will post that on the website in the next few days for, well, I'm assuming all the species you're interested in, all the major ones, okay, like the major 5.
Great. Okay. Well, I think I'll get started on crop enterprises, and hopefully our technology lasts out throughout the night. But You know, people come to me and they say, gosh, what should I grow? I want to grow crops, I want to grow veggies, I want to grow this and that, but where do I get started? And I think the most important thing to remember is that there's really no single formula for success. You know, it's all about what's going to happen on your farm with your resources and your interests. But I can say that diversity helps a lot. That saying of putting all our eggs in one basket, or putting all our carrots in one bundle, or all our garlic in one bag, it's true. We don't want to go with just one enterprise when we talk about small-scale sustainable agriculture. And I think you guys are probably figuring that out. But diversifying allows us to grow what yields the best, what sells the best. It helps us fill in the gaps on the farm, and then also replenish the farm. So since it's a whole farm plan that we're working on, I bet most of you will walk away from this course with multiple enterprises, and as you should. You know, we're not monocroppers here. We have a whole farm to design. So with that in mind, we talk about crops now, and I want to just see if we can move to the next slide.